Hi, welcome to Joyfido International. Now, you know what Joyfido International stands for, but I'll tell you what's been really interesting. I have been very busy. So whenever you don't hear from me from time to time, I'm in that mode where I'm really seeking knowledge, wanting to know what's new. So I got a new slogan for you for Joyfido International. It just means, let's start thinking. That's what it is. Let's start thinking. My name is Joyfido and welcome on board. Okay, so what's the title today? What I want to chat about. I said I've been very busy. Let's serve our community. That's the title. Serve your community. Why is this so important? I've been researching, and somehow something interesting came to me. I don't know if you've heard that word melanin. Melanin, MELANIN. So I remembered watching a program on Oprah, which was talking about melanin. And somehow the idea came to me, research this topic again. So I started researching it. Somehow the particular one I watched on Oprah never came up. This was on YouTube. And I thought, okay, I've lost it. I still will look for that particular one. But what then came up was Dr. Afrika. So if you go online and you search, on YouTube and you search melanin, Dr. Afrika comes up. And he has written quite a lot of books, Dr. Afrika. This is the one on melanin. It's quite a really small book, not much of what you would say a big book. You can read this in no time. But I got curious and I bought the book. And it wasn't just the only book I bought. I bought quite a few of his books. This is another one, African Holistic Health. Same Dr. Afrika. Another one on nutritional destruction of black people. Again, Dr. Afrika. He's written quite a lot of books, which is so good because I love when people share knowledge. You see, if we don't share knowledge, we will never learn. And that's why you see me, I come here all the time to share what I know with you. Now, what it is some of us are quite happy researching and searching knowledge to share with us or share with each other. Well, some of us are quite happy just waiting until the knowledge comes to us. So I'm just one of those people who will read. I love to read. And so when I hear about something, I want to read it up. I hear about something, I want to read it up. So I'm really grateful to Dr. Afrika for doing all the work he's done. Because what I found out, yes, the books are there, which you can read and then assimilate and gain as much knowledge as you can. But the videos, the YouTube videos are even more informative than the books. So it's up to you, whichever one takes your fancy. For me, I like to keep knowledge. So that's why I buy the books. Because, technology, we don't know. We don't know if there will be YouTube tomorrow. We don't know. So when I find knowledge, I quickly grab it and I keep it. Because I need generations to see it. I need my children to see them when they have the time, when they're in the position to understand these things. So that's why I invest in knowledge. So it's up to you to invest in it. But of course, coming out of Dr. Afrika, the next thing that then came out of that, this is another trick you have to pick up. When you read one book, they mention another book. Because what happens is, remember what I said, we learn from each other. When you get into the habit of seeking knowledge, you're going to find that every source is leading you to another source. So from Dr. Afrika, I got to know about this book, The Miseducation of the Negro. And this guy's name is Carter Woodson. This is the book. A very small book at that. Very small book. But I tell you, this book has opened If there was anything to say can open in your brain, this book has opened my brain. This book has changed my mentality about so many things I thought I knew. A little book, but with so much information. And I tell you one of the information that really got me. I'll read it to you. It said, the education of the masses has not enabled them to advance very far in making a living, and has not developed in the Negro the power to change this condition. What condition are we talking about? You know, we all go to school, we learn this, we learn that, we become degree holders, PhD, professor, masters, BSc, college degree, you name it. Just like the title says, Miss Education. And this has really blown my head off, because what's happening here? Okay, so we have people fighting for animal rights, people fighting for gay rights, people fighting for fish rights, you know, people who talk about, you know, the fishes in the sea, the dolphins are eating plastic and they're dying. You know, people stand for rights of this and rights of that. I stand for African rights. I stand for black rights. Because while all these people are fighting these rights, which absolutely nothing is wrong with them, who is fighting the African man's rights? And I tell you a little thing that really got me as well. Another set of books I'm going to show you. This particular one called The New Colonialism. The New Colonialism, I had to print it out. It's like, it's a PDF. I'll say this right now. If you want to read this up, email me and I will send it to you, because it's online. And this is written by a man called Mark Curtis. Mark Curtis did so much research, and he did this particular research with a group. I think they are called War on Want. And when I researched on Mark Curtis, he'd written quite a lot of books as well, which is so interesting. There's this one called Waging the War on Want. There's another one. Did I bring it? Yes. On People. And it says Britain's secret human rights abuses. There's another one here called The Great Deception. All this is talking about what's been happening. There's another one I got. Okay, there's one here. BBC, Brainwashing Britain. The Origins, Why Nations Fail. That particular one is not from Mark Curtis. But you can see where my thinking is going. This is quite an interesting one. The Destruction of Black Civilization. So, I'm questioning, there's another interesting one. Web of Deceit. And this is Mark Curtis again. So, when I searched on Mark Curtis, I saw so many books he's written. But the interesting one, which is the one I printed out, this New Colonialism, you want to read this up. If you are African, your heart will be breaking in pieces. Because what he picked out, it's about this 10 major companies here in the UK. 10 companies that are on the stock exchange. And you know what they're doing? They're going to Africa, and I tell you the minerals they are going there to grab. They're going to Africa and they are taking gold, diamonds, coal, platinum, and numerous other minerals. And they are going there to mine them. Let's not forget oil. They mine all these things. These things are bringing in trillions of dollars into these companies' accounts. But what is happening in Africa? Poverty that you cannot even begin to name. Why does it affect me? Or why do you think I get so irritated? You go into my village and you see people in abject poverty. But where the wealth that God put in our land is what's causing us problem. This is why people come to my village and they kill people, and they murder people, and they assassinate people. Because a few companies have made it their business to grab all the wealth in the land, leave the people in abject poverty, and carry on as if it doesn't matter. And then you start hearing how poor Africans are. Africa is so poor, we don't even want to talk about Africa. Nobody talks about Africa in the Western world. Because why? Nobody wants to speak on behalf of Africa. Very few people. And then you start hearing right of this and right of that. But you come to Africa and you take all this wealth, and these people don't count, and then you continue to put us in more and more slavery, new colonialism, he calls it. Because now we've been put in economic colonialism. It's no longer, oh yeah, let's go there and divide them into geographical portions and tell them to do political colonialism, and then we come around and we say, oh, you belong to Britain, and you belong to France, and you belong to Belgium or whatever. Now it is economic colonialism, and you know what then happens? They take all these trillions away, and then our political leaders will turn around, cap in hand, please, can you give us some loan to go and fix infrastructure in my country? And of course, they give them few billions or millions, and then they charge them ridiculous interest rates, and then they put the people in more poverty. And as if that's not bad enough, then they turn around and they tell you how useless we are. We cannot work. Because there's nothing, what can you do? When your leaders then turn around the little loan they've given them to supposedly using creating infrastructure in the land, they now steal it away. They now siphon it and put it in their own personal accounts. Do you see how poverty now recycles in Africa? Because they've gone to take everything we own in the form of, this is their business. From this document, it says the amount of land these companies have amassed in Africa, because clearly these lands that they've taken contain so much wealth, is bigger than the size of Britain, the amount of land they've taken. Just so that they can steal all this wealth away from this country. Today is not about this particular topic, because all of those will be coming. But what I wanted to talk about today is serve your community, and I'll tell you why it's so important. It came from the miseducation. So he's telling us in that little line I read that we supposedly go to school to learn all these things. But what they've done is they haven't taught us to manage ourselves. They haven't taught us to take care of our own things. You see how they connect? So because we're so ignorant, because we don't know anything on how to take care of the things we own, that's why they can come and drill away all our oil, mine away all our platinum and gold and diamond, and then they go and work on it, process it, and create all these things they create that will cost millions. I remember when Elizabeth Taylor was alive, and she wears diamonds that cost millions, and all that comes from Africa. Because we don't know how to do it. But we've gone to school. We've been educated. Do you see where the miseducation is coming in? We have never been educated to be able to stand on our own. So that's what that message is saying. It's saying education of the masses has not enabled them to advance very far in making a living. We think we're educated, but we've not been taught anything about how we can stand on our own. This is where the problem is. So what do you make of that? What do you think about that? We need to start thinking. That's why my new slogan is, let's start thinking. What happened is, all this so-called education blocked our thinking. Because when you read this book, I'm telling you, you'll be in awe. They made us feel like everything we knew were wrong. All our culture, they made us feel it was wrong. So the way he explains it is, we go to school, we learn these lies. As far as I know, most of them are lies. He says what they do is they go and throw on us history that has absolutely no bearing on what we're dealing with today. Go and learn it. I mean, especially here in the UK, go and learn about King Edward VIII, King whatever that was beheading all his wives. What has that got to do with anything right now? And then you go and learn about Roman history. What's it got to do with Africa? Here in the UK, nobody teaches African history in any school. And you see the way they do it is so that our children don't even know there's a place called Africa. All they put in, I call it instruments of propaganda, on their TV channels or whatever, is negative stories about Africa. And so whenever people think of Africa, the mindset is poor place, they live on trees, they drink dirty water, everything negative. Because that's the image they want the world to see. But when they're going behind the scenes to drill all the natural resources, nobody hears about that one. So this miseducation is telling us how we have been led astray, how we have been made to believe we're incapable of thinking. Because they've made you think, the whole idea is for you to think the way they want you to think. Do you see what's going on here? And so when you're thinking like they want you to think, you will never think in the line of thinking straight. You will never think in the line of introducing something new. Whatever you do will be wrong. There's no innovation in us. We've stopped. But yes, centuries before us, black men did great things. There's a video I saw, someone sent it to me. Everything you can think of, black men invented. Everything you can think of. Today, how many things are we inventing? Because they've been able to wipe our thinking and infuse it with this so-called new education that all of us want to go and have PhD, nothing. PhD, you cannot contribute to your community. So one of the things he's saying is, by the time we finish this so-called education, we think we're better than our community. We don't want to give back because they've told us that there is nothing in your community that you need. So now whose community are you going to go and serve? That's why I need us to start thinking. Let's start thinking. That's what Jafida International is going to be talking about from now onwards. Time for us to think. So your community needs you. Wherever we're from, they need us. So when we're saying community, who is your community? Where you're from, your state, your country, your race. They need you. They need you to bring knowledge on board. They need you, whatever you know, go and share it with your people. Like you watching now, you're my community. And that's why I'm sharing what I know with you. Because if I don't share it with you, who will I share it with? And if I don't give it to you, who's going to give it to you? So it's like, you need to start seeking knowledge as well. You need to wake up and look for what you want. This is an interesting one. Part of the course I'm doing right now, one of the things that also came out is talking about learning to learn. And apparently right now we're in that age called technology, not technology, some people say technology, but knowledge revolution. Remember we had industrial revolution and all the various revolutions. This time is knowledge revolution. And that's what learning to learn is about. Because you need to start chasing the knowledge you need. And this is why now you can just go on YouTube and type in whatever and it comes up. In the past, you couldn't do that. In the past, you have to go to particular schools, you have to buy books, you have to buy magazines. You don't need that now. Anything you want to know, it's out there. The knowledge is waiting for you. You have to seek it. And the Bible said it. Seek and you shall find. But we are not thinking. So, our community needs us to find knowledge and bring it back home. Bring it back to our people. Because see, we all chase amazing communities. We all want to hop into that plane and go to some exotic land. But like I preach all the time, who created that land? Who made that place exotic? Who made Dubai exotic? It's human beings. It's the owners of that land. Who made England what it is? Okay, yes, they grabbed us slaves and brought us here to do the dirty work, and in the US the same thing. But human beings made it. And that's what they say. A community is the people. The people make that community. It's not the other way around. Lots of people think, oh yeah, that community, I will just go there and it's waiting for me. No, there is no community rolling red carpet and expecting you to come and walk on at your own pace. People took their time to create whatever you're seeing there. So if your community is lacking, which is happening to me right now, my community is lacking, is because those of us who have knowledge, we haven't taken it back home. So that's the message I'm sharing with you today. Your community needs you. Let's serve our community. There is so much our communities need. Just the same way every community we live in have things happening there. So let's start looking. For instance, every community, people need to be. There are people who need to look beautiful. So makeup, lashes, lipstick. What kind of business is that? That's a business. There are people who need clothes. Fashion. Is that not human beings that make it? There are people who need homes to live in. That's builders. There are people need videos to be done. Just like we're doing this video for you. People need their pictures taken. Photography. People need food. People need to just go out and have fun and go to a restaurant and eat. That's cooking. Do you see how it's all coming together? Now, if you draw back all these skills and knowledge to your community, do you see how you have created a decent community? People need books to read about your community, about where you come from. I mean, instances, my local community, even our language is dying out. Because nobody wants to make it their business to write about the history of the community. How do we expect generations to come to know about that community? But we're busy going to study the history of a country that has no bearing on our community. We've lost our culture. That's one of the things that Dr. Africa talks about. We need to go back to our roots to become who we are. Because we've been misled for centuries. And we need to take back everything that we now know back to our community to serve our own people. So that's the big message I'm sharing with you today. We cannot grow if we don't encourage our community to grow. Because to tell you the truth, wherever you go out there, they're not going to receive you as their own. And that's what's happening. Because for those of us who just, okay, we have our children out of our community and now they're at this point of wondering, where do I belong to? Because they don't know anything about the local community where we come from. They don't, in the community where they've been, given birth to and brought up, they are really not accepted. So now they're hanging in the air. So it's for us, the original owners of a community, to take our children back there. Settle them in. if it's not physically, historically, culturally, stories. Let them know that they come from somewhere. Because if we don't tell them, nobody's going to tell them. And if anybody tries to tell them from what I know about the communities that I live in, it will be all lies. And it will be all negative. So this is where you and I come in. We need to put the knowledge we have into our community. And we need to stop allowing other people to brainwash us. Talking about brainwashing, this is another interesting book I got on that. Brainwashed. I got this book long time ago and I've not had time to read it. But now that I've read this Miseducation, I'm going to read that. Because I know there'll be so much information as well. We've been led astray. That's the big message here. We've been led astray for centuries. And it all started from slavery. And someone like me who's African and grew up in Africa and everything, when people talked about slavery, clearly I never got it. But knowing what's going on now, I know what it means. And I read books upon books explaining what happened and what people went through. But you see, the reality is right now, just like this Tony Curtis is talking about, slavery has gone past physically moving you from location to location. Slavery is happening as we speak. Because when you then leave your country and you go to another man's country, they will never accept you as theirs. Fine. Whatever you do is never going to be good enough. Fine. But they're not going to encourage you to believe in yourself. Now that's the part that really gets to me. Because I remember when I started with braiding, training people in braiding, it was conduct. People looked at it like, what are you doing? What is that? That's not hairdressing. It's similar to hairdressing. And I said, no. I stood my ground and I said, no. This is a skill that I own. This is a skill that belongs to my people. I want this knowledge to remain. I want to see younger generation take it up. And thank God I did. Because today, everyone is excited about braiding. And I'm proud of the effort I put in. But see, if I'd allowed them to mess around with my brain as they were trying to do, they were trying really hard to stop me. Can you imagine what could have happened? Then they'll be looking at braiding with scorn. And as I'm telling you this, there was a picture my daughter showed to me. Which brand is this? Dior. Okay, I go into African fashion as well, which I'm excited about. It's one of my biggest things. And then I came up with it and I'm trying all these various styles and everybody's looking at you like, oh yeah, big deal, yeah, African fashion, yeah, what is that? So I created the brand I called African Queen. And so we're making the fashion styles, skirts and dresses and tops and all of that. And then of course the full African regalia, which you've seen some videos that I've done with them. And again, still looking at you with scorn like big deal. And then I tell you, I know so many Africans who would not be seen dead in African fashion. What is wrong with your brain? Because that's the message they want to put in you. For you to have this hatred for your own thing. Anyway, I stuck my grounds. And guess what? 2 days ago, my daughter shows me pictures from Dior, their latest collection, all African fabrics. And they call it, you know how they use words to suit themselves? The latest fashion and quality wax. Really? So today wax is quality. Today wax is amazing. But you know, in a way I feel good about that. You know why? Because now, when the so-called Africans who don't think, the same ones that have been miseducated and misled, who think, oh yeah, and scorn at African things, now they will look at it, oh, but you know, it's actually that good. But look at it. If I was allowing them to mess around with my thinking, I would have given up on my own fashion as well, my own culture. So it's time we all start thinking, because just like they did with braids, just like they're doing with fashion, just like our food will soon be the next thing they will hop on as well. I already work on foods. I have a brand I call Sunshine Foods. Again, portraying the African food as it should be. Because the message is, what you own, they want it. They want it so bad. But no, not on your own terms, on their own terms. So this is big message for all of us to wake up and start thinking. Because if we allow other people to think for us, we're never going to be in that position that they're going to say, you stand on your own. I know what I'm talking about. Because when I was studying hairdressing, I had a big fight with them day in, day out. And why was it such a big deal? Because I told them, when it comes to braiding, there is nothing you can teach me. You may teach me to blow dry hair, you may teach me to cut hair, I don't mind, because that's your skill. But with braiding, I will teach you. Now, this is where the problem is. They never want to be in a position where you teach them anything. They want to teach you everything. And you know what that means to you psychologically? It means you're second. It means you can never be first. But I tell you what I stand on. Going to Deuteronomy 28, chapter 28, there God said very clearly, I will make you the head and not the tail. I will make you the head and not the tail. That got into me. I've always known that God made me a head. I'm not a tail. I'm not tail to anyone. And so whenever anyone wants to make me a tail, you've got on my wrong side. That's what's happening to Africa. We've been made to become tail. And that tells me something. You're not on God's side. Because if you're on God's side, you will never be tail to anybody. You will always be the head. So, if you pull yourself back into your culture, you will always be the head. Do you get it? This is why you have to serve your community. Get what you know, bring it all home, teach your people. Empower your people. Give your people strength so we don't lack. I hate lack. And that's what's happening. Because for as long as you're tail, for as long as you're second, for as long as people think you're inferior, you will remain inferior. That's not where you want to be. So, gain knowledge, seek knowledge. If you look in your community, anything is lacking, go and find answers for it and solve it. Solve your community's problem. Solve whatever they lack. But you know the good thing that comes out of that. What comes out is wealth. Because when you give to nature, by serving your community, you're giving to nature. That's what nature wants. But you know what I found out with our people? They would rather sit and create mushroom churches everywhere and drag all the people in there and psychologically mess up their brain in another format and start to put fear into them. There's something has happened. That's a topic for another day. Seriously. But for today, serve your community. Gain knowledge. Share it with your people. And from that, you will empower your people. From there, God will bless you. I'm going to leave it here today because, you know me, I could go on. There's so much to talk about. But I thank you so much for watching. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And God bless you abundantly.